The grand chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with crystalline walls that captured and reflected the light of 1,000 distant stars. Ambassador Zekthar stood at the central podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of celebration. Around him, representatives from 200 civilizations watched with expressions of satisfaction and pride. 15 years, Zekthar announced, his voice carrying through the vast space. 15 years since we freed ourselves from human interference. Look at what we have accomplished. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing charts and statistics. Trade routes had expanded by 40%. Scientific cooperation had reached unprecedented levels. Border disputes had decreased dramatically. The galaxy was prosperous, peaceful, and united in ways it had never been when humanity sat among them. Zekthar remembered the day they had voted to expel humanity from the Council. The humans had just finished fighting the Void War, a brutal conflict against pirates and raiders threatening the outer colonies. They had won decisively, but their methods had been harsh. Entire pirate bases destroyed. No mercy for those who threatened innocent lives. The Council had watched with growing unease as human warships demonstrated their terrible efficiency. They are too violent, the Council had agreed. Too quick to use force. Too dangerous to remain among civilized species, the humans had protested. Their representative, a stern woman named Admiral Chen, had stood in this very chamber and warned them. She spoke of sensors detecting something in the deep space beyond the galactic rim, movement patterns that suggested intelligence, ship signatures that matched nothing in any database, a threat that was studying them, learning their weaknesses, preparing for something terrible. Give us time to investigate, she had pleaded. Let us work together to understand what is coming. But the Council had seen only fear-mongering, an attempt by humanity to maintain their military presence, a way to justify their warships and their aggressive tendencies. They had voted overwhelmingly to demand human withdrawal. Either humanity would demilitarize and accept Council oversight of all their defensive forces, or they would leave. The humans had chosen to leave. Zekthar felt a moment of old satisfaction remembering it. Humanity had packed up their embassies, recalled their ships, and vanished into the darkness beyond Council space. Good riddance to warmongers and troublemakers. The galaxy was better without them. A junior aide approached the podium, moving with unusual urgency. Zekthar frowned at the interruption, but accepted the data tablet. His eyes scanned the message once, then again, his satisfaction draining away like water through broken glass. What is it? Asked Ambassador Thren, the Velkari representative. Zekthar looked up at the assembled council. We have lost contact with the Outer Rim colonies. 7 systems. No communications for the past 3 hours. A murmur rippled through the chamber. 7 systems going silent simultaneously was not a technical failure. It was an attack. Pirates? Someone suggested. Impossible, Thren replied. The Outer Rim has fortified stations, planetary defense grids. Even a major pirate fleet could not take 7 systems so quickly. More reports flooded in over the next hour. 12 systems now. Then 20. Then 40. Whatever was attacking moved with terrifying speed, jumping from system to system, leaving only silence behind. No distress calls. No emergency beacons. Just empty space, where thriving colonies had existed. The Council deployed rapid response fleets to investigate. Admiral Corvan, the Council's finest military commander, led 3 battle groups into the affected region. His confidence was absolute. Whatever pirates or rebels had caused this disruption would soon learn the price of defying the Galactic Council. The Council watched through live feeds as Corvan's fleet emerged into the Theta 7 system, a colony world of 8 million souls. Beautiful blue oceans and green continents. Zekthar had visited once, decades ago, and remembered the peaceful settlements dotting the coastal regions. The world was still there. But the settlements were gone. Not destroyed. Gone. The land was stripped clean, as if some massive force had simply erased every trace of civilization. The orbital stations hung in space like empty shells, their interiors hollowed out. What could do this? Korvan whispered over the communication channel. His answer came in the form of sensor contacts. Hundreds of them. Ships emerged from behind the planet's far side, moving in perfect formation. They were unlike anything in Council records. Crystalline hulls that seemed to absorb light. Organic curves suggesting biological growth rather than mechanical construction. And their weapons opened fire without warning or communication. The Council watched in horror as Korvan's fleet tried to respond. Their shields held for the first few impacts, then collapsed under sustained bombardment. The enemy weapons seemed to phase through standard defensive barriers, striking hulls directly. Ships exploded one after another. Korvan's flagship took a direct hit to the command deck. The transmission cut to static. 3 battle groups, 70 ships, gone in less than 20 minutes. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military mobilization. Others called for evacuation of the Outer Rim territories. A few simply stared at the blank screens in shock, unable to process what they had witnessed. Zekthar called for order, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. We need information. What are these attackers? Where did they come from? A science officer pulled up deep space sensor data from automated monitoring stations. The readings showed massive energy signatures moving through the void between galaxies. The signatures had appeared 3 months ago, slowly advancing toward Council space. The monitoring stations had flagged the readings as anomalies and filed them for later review. No one had paid attention. Check the archives, Zekthar ordered. The search took 30 minutes. When the results appeared, the chamber fell silent. There was one match. A report filed 15 years ago by humanity. Admiral Chen had presented sensor data showing identical energy signatures beyond the galactic rim. She had called them a potential threat, requiring immediate investigation. She had warned that unknown forces were studying the galaxy. She had begged for time to prepare. The Council had dismissed her warnings as paranoia. Zekthar felt something cold settle in his chest. They had 15 years. 15 years to investigate. 15 years to prepare. 15 years to take humanity's warning seriously. Instead, they had celebrated their independence and prosperity while an enemy gathered in the darkness. Over the next 72 hours, the situation deteriorated beyond anyone's worst predictions. The enemy, now being called harvesters, based on their pattern of stripping worlds clean, advanced deeper into Council space. 3 major civilizations lost their homeworlds, billions dead or simply gone, harvested for purposes no one understood. The Council's military mounted defense after defense. Each failed. Standard tactics were useless. The harvesters adapted to every strategy within hours. Their numbers seemed endless. Their technology was far beyond anything the Council possessed. An emergency session was called. The chamber was half empty now. Many representatives had fled to their homeworlds to oversee evacuations. Others were dead, their worlds already consumed. Zekthar stood at the podium again. But there was no triumph in his posture now. Only defeat and desperate hope. We have one option remaining, he said quietly. We must contact humanity. The vote was unanimous. The Council scout ship drifted through the abandoned system, its sensors sweeping the empty colonies below. Captain Dalrix studied the readings with growing confusion. The human settlements were intact. Buildings stood undamaged. Power grids still functioned. Agricultural fields showed evidence of recent cultivation. But there were no people, no bodies, no signs of struggle or hasty evacuation. The humans had simply left. Dalrix had volunteered for this mission despite the danger. The Council had sent 40 ships searching for humanity, following old trade routes and outdated star charts. Most found nothing. A few discovered abandoned outposts like this one. None had found any actual humans. It was as if an entire species had vanished into the void. Captain, we are detecting an active signal, the communications officer reported. It appears to be An automated beacon. Dalrix ordered the ship to approach. The beacon floated in high orbit. A simple metal sphere broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The message was in standard galactic trade language, recorded 15 years ago based on the timestamp. A human face appeared on the view screen. Admiral Chen. She looked older than the images Dalrix had seen in the Council archives. Tired. Disappointed. "If you are receiving this message, then the harvesters have come," she began. "We warned you this would happen. We begged you to listen. You chose not to." Dalrix felt his throat tighten with shame. Chen continued. "Humanity offered you peace. We offered friendship. We offered our knowledge. And our strength. We asked only to be treated as equals, to work together preparing for the threat we all faced." The recording showed images from 15 years ago. The council chambers. Zekthar and other ambassadors shouting at human representatives. Accusations of warmongering. Demands for human submission. The final vote to expel humanity from galactic civilization. "You called us violent," Chen said. "You called us dangerous. You said we were unfit for civilized society. Perhaps you were right. But we were also honest. We told you the truth, and you called it lies." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Humanity has withdrawn from Council space. We are relocating our population to systems beyond your reach. We are taking our technology, our ships, and our knowledge with us. You wanted us gone. Congratulations. You got your wish." Dalrix wanted to look away, but forced himself to watch. "We are leaving you with 15 years, Chen stated. "The harvesters are slow, methodical. They study their targets before attacking. Our best projections suggest they will reach Council space in approximately 15 standard years. Use that time wisely. Build defenses. Develop new weapons. Learn to work together in ways you refuse to work with us." The recording showed human ships departing Council space. Thousands of vessels carrying billions of people into the unknown darkness. An entire civilization choosing exile over subjugation. "We gave you peace," Chen finished. "We gave you time. What you do with these gifts is your choice. Humanity will not return. You made it clear, we are not welcome. So we leave you to face the future you have chosen." The recording ended. The beacon continued broadcasting the message on repeat. A memorial to humanity's final words to the galaxy that had rejected them. Dalrix sat in silence for a long moment. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. Outside the viewport, the empty human colony world turned slowly. A ghost town in space. "Continue the search," he finally said. "Follow the trajectory of their departing ships. They went somewhere. We need to find them." It took another 3 weeks of searching. 3 weeks, while the harvesters advanced deeper into Council space. 3 weeks, while more worlds fell and more billions died. Dalrix had almost given up hope when his sensors detected something at the edge of an unmapped system. A ship. Definitely human design, but larger than any vessel from 15 years ago. It appeared on their scanners and simply waited, making no hostile moves but blocking their path forward. "This is Council Scout Vessel determined," Dalrix broadcast. "We come seeking humanitarian aid. We need to speak with human leadership. John. Dahl." No response. "Please," Dalrix added, abandoning protocol. After a long pause, a voice replied in perfect galactic standard. "Follow us. Do not deviate from the course we provide. Do not attempt to scan our systems. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction." The human ship turned and began moving deeper into the system. Dalrix followed, his hands trembling slightly on the controls. They passed defensive satellites that could have vaporized his small scout ship with ease. They flew through fields of mines that parted just enough to let them through. The level of military preparation was staggering. Finally, a planet appeared ahead. It was beautiful. similar to Earth from the old records, but the continents were different. This was a new world. A new beginning for humanity. Orbital stations surrounded the planet in layers. Warships patrolled in perfect formations. The entire system was a fortress. But more than that, it was thriving. Dalrix could see ships moving between stations. Construction yards building new vessels. Agricultural platforms producing food. Signs of a civilization that had not merely survived but grown stronger in isolation. His ship was directed to a landing platform on the largest orbital station. Armed guards escorted him through corridors filled with humans going about their daily lives. They glanced at him with curiosity, but no hostility. Children played in recreation areas. Families ate together in common spaces. This was not a civilization cowering in fear. This was a civilization that had found something better than what the Council had offered. Ambassador Park met him in a simple conference room. She was young, probably born after humanity's exodus. She had never known the Galactic Council as anything but the organization that had expelled her people. "You know why I am here?" Dalrix began. "Of course," Park replied. "The harvesters have arrived. You are losing badly. You need humanity to save you." The bluntness hurt, but Dalrix could not deny it. "Yes." Park pulled up holographic displays showing the current state of the war. Worlds lost. Casualties estimated in the trillions. The harvester advance was accelerating. At current rates, they would reach the Council homeworld within 6 months. "You had 15 years, Park said quietly. "Admiral Chen gave you exact coordinates for the harvester staging areas. She provided detailed analysis of their tactics. She offered to lead a joint mission to investigate them before they became a threat." "What did you do with that information?" Dalrix had reviewed the records during his search. He knew the answer. The Council had filed Chen's reports as paranoid speculation. They had done nothing. Nothing at all. "We were wrong," he admitted. "We were arrogant and stupid and wrong. I cannot change the past. I can only beg you to help us now." Park studied him for a long moment. "Why should we? You called us violent warmongers. You expelled us from civilized space. You told us we were not worthy to stand among you. Now you want us to fight and die for you? Not for us," Dalrix said desperately. "For the billions of innocents who never had a voice in those decisions. For the children who do not deserve to be harvested because their leaders were fools. I know we have no right to ask, but I am asking anyway." Park was silent. Then she stood. "Wait here." She was gone for 2 hours. Dalrix sat alone in the conference room, watching through the viewport as human ships came and went. He wondered what they were discussing, whether humanity would simply let the Council burn for its mistakes. He would not blame them if they did. When Park returned, she was not alone. Admiral Chen walked beside her. The Admiral was older now, gray hair and lines around her eyes, but her posture was still military perfect, still strong. "The Council is voting on our terms for intervention," Chen said without preamble. "We will help, but not because you deserve it. Because someone must." Dalrix felt relief flood through him. "Thank you. Thank you. Do not thank us yet," Park added. "We are not the humans you remember. We have spent 15 years preparing for this war. You are about to learn what happens when you give humanity time to evolve." Zekthar stood in the Council chamber and forced himself to speak words he had never imagined saying. The human delegation sat in the guest section, watching silently. Admiral Chen, Ambassador Park, a dozen other representatives from a civilization the Council had expelled 15 years ago. Now they were here to dictate terms, and the Council had no choice but to listen. "The Galactic Council formally acknowledges that we were wrong," Zekthar said, each word like broken glass in his throat. "We ignored humanity's warnings about the harvester threat. We dismissed your intelligence. We treated you with suspicion and disrespect when you offered only friendship and cooperation." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some representatives looked relieved. Others looked angry, their pride wounded by having to admit failure. A few looked broken, representatives of species that had already lost their homeworlds. "We were fools," Zekthar continued. "We let our fear of your strength blind us to your wisdom. We chose pride over pragmatism. And now we are paying the price for that choice." Admiral Chen stood and walked to the central floor. Her uniform was different from what Zekthar remembered. Sleeker, more advanced. The fabric seemed to shimmer with embedded technology. Everything about her spoke of a military that had not remained static during their exile. "The Council must agree to certain terms before humanity will intervene," Chen stated. Her voice was calm but firm. "First, all human colonies seized during our expulsion will be returned immediately. Full restitution for losses incurred." A few council members looked ready to protest, but Zekthar raised a hand for silence. "Second, humanity will never again face restrictions on our military or sovereignty. We are a free people. We will defend ourselves as we see fit. No council oversight. No external control." Agreed. Third, this acknowledgement of error will be broadcast throughout council space. Every species will know that the council was wrong, that humanity was right. No cover-ups. No revised histories. This caused more stirring. To admit failure so publicly would damage the council's authority. But what authority did they have left? The harvesters were 3 jumps from the council homeworld. Pride was a luxury the council could no longer afford. "Agreed," Zekthar said. Ambassador Park stood next. "There is one more condition. When this is over, humanity will not simply return to the old arrangement. We will be full members of the council, with equal voice and equal vote. No second-class status, no provisional membership. Full equality." "Agreed," Zekthar replied immediately. "Assuming we survive this war, humanity will have earned that place 1,000 times over." Chen nodded. "Then, we accept. The human fleet will deploy immediately to establish a defensive line at the sanctuary system. That is where we will make our stand." She activated a holographic display showing the strategic situation. The harvesters were advancing along a predictable route, consuming every system in their path. The sanctuary system was 3 jumps ahead of their current position. It was a natural choke point, with limited jump routes. If humanity could hold there, they could slow the advance. "How many ships can you field?" asked Admiral Thren, the Council's senior military officer. "Enough," Chen replied. "But we will need the Council fleet to support us. This is not a battle humanity can win alone." Over the next 72 hours, the Council watched as the human fleet arrived at Sanctuary. They came in waves, ships jumping in by the dozens. Carriers that dwarfed anything the Council had built. Destroyers bristling with weapon systems no database recognized. Cruisers that moved with impossible agility for their size. Zekthar studied the fleet composition with growing amazement. 15 years ago, humanity had perhaps 200 major warships. Now he was looking at over 1,000, each one representing technological advancement far beyond what the Council possessed. "What did you do during those 15 years?" he whispered. Ambassador Park stood beside him on the observation deck of the Council command station. "We prepared. We innovated. We became what we needed to be." The human fleet established defensive positions around Sanctuary's 3 inhabited planets. Mining colonies. Agricultural settlements. 5 million souls, who would die if the harvesters broke through. Council ships joined the formation, their crews working alongside humans for the first time in 15 years. Zekthar had transferred his flag to a Council cruiser so he could be present for the battle. If this was the end, he would face it alongside those he had wronged. It was the least he could do. The harvesters arrived exactly when human calculations predicted. Their fleet emerged from jump space in perfect formation. Thousands of crystalline ships moving as one organism. Their previous battles had taught them the Council's tactics. They advanced with confidence, weapons, charging. Then they met humanity's response. The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen. Energy beams that resonated at specific frequencies, shattering the Harvester's crystalline hulls. Missiles that phased through shields to deliver payload directly to target. Fighters that danced through enemy formations with impossible precision. But the Harvesters adapted quickly. They had 15 years to grow stronger too. Their shields adjusted to the new weapon frequencies. Their point defense systems learned to track the human fighters. Their numbers were simply overwhelming. The battle became a grinding slugfest. Ships exploded on both sides. Human carriers launched wave after wave of fighters, each wave taking losses. Council cruisers held the line even as their shields failed and hulls cracked. The Harvesters pressed forward, accepting horrific casualties to break through the defensive perimeter. They are trying to reach the planets, Chen observed from her flagship. They do not care about losses. They only care about the harvest. A Harvester battleship broke through the human destroyer screen and made a run at the nearest planet. Council ships moved to intercept, but they were too slow. The battleship would reach orbit in minutes. Then a human carrier positioned itself directly in the battleship's path. The carrier was already damaged, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. Its captain broadcast on open channels. "This is Captain Morrison of the Indomitable. All crew to escape pods. Authorization. Omega Protocol." Zekthar watched in horror as the carrier's crew evacuated. Escape pods launched like seeds from a dandelion, while the carrier itself continued on collision course. Captain Morrison stayed at the helm, guiding the massive ship with precision. The carrier struck the Harvester battleship head-on, traveling at 0.7 light speed. The explosion was visible from the command station, 5 light minutes away. Both ships vaporized instantly. The shockwave damaged nearby Harvester vessels, disrupting their attack formation. "She stayed behind," Zekthar said numbly. "She could have evacuated. Someone had to guide the ship," Park replied quietly. "Someone always has to stay." It was the first of many sacrifices. Over the next 18 hours, the battle raged without pause. Human and Council ships fought side by side, sharing targeting data, covering each other's weak points. Zekthar found himself shouting tactical advice to human captains. Human crews risked their lives rescuing Council escape pods. Slowly, painfully, the two forces became one. The Harvesters were finally forced to retreat, leaving thousands of destroyed ships behind. But the cost was terrible. The human fleet had lost 40% of its strength. The Council had lost 60%. Sanctuary was saved, but barely. Zekthar visited the medical stations where wounded from both species recovered together. He saw a human medic treating a Council soldier with the same care she gave her own people. He saw a Council engineer helping repair a human fighter while its pilot thanked him in broken standard language. "We should have always been together," Zekthar said to Admiral Chen as they surveyed the damage. "We wasted 15 years fighting each other, instead of preparing together. We 100 as a medio. We 100 as a medio. We 105 disgiven." "Yes," Chen agreed. "But we are together now. The question is whether it is too late." She pulled up intelligence gathered from destroyed Harvester ships. Human scientists had managed to extract data cores from the wreckage. What they found was terrifying. "The ships we have been fighting are scouts," Chen explained. "The main Harvester fleet is still coming. They have a world ship, a mobile command center the size of a small moon. That is where their central intelligence resides. As long as it exists, the Harvesters will keep coming. Then we destroy it," Zekthar said. "Yes, but it is deep in their territory, beyond a dozen systems they control. Getting there would require running a gauntlet that would make the Battle of Sanctuary look easy. How many ships would we need?" Chen showed him the calculations. "Everything. Every ship humanity has. Every ship the Council can field. We would be betting our entire military capability on one desperate assault. If we fail, both our civilizations will be defenseless." Zekthar looked at the tactical display. At the Harvester world ship, hiding in the darkness. At the route they would have to take to reach it. At the casualty projections that showed 60 to 70% losses, even if everything went perfectly. When do we leave? Captain Kim stood on the bridge of the destroyer, relentless, and watched the tactical display with grim focus. The combined fleet had assembled in deep space, hidden from Harvester sensors by experimental cloaking fields. 2,000 ships. Humanity and Council together. Every vessel that could be spared from defensive duties. Every crew willing to risk everything. On one desperate throw of the dice, Admiral Chen's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is command. We jump in 5 minutes. You know the mission. You know the stakes. The Harvester world ship is our target. Nothing else matters. We break through their defenses. We destroy that monstrosity. And we end this war. Kim looked at his crew. Young faces. Old faces. Human and non-human, working side by side, at their stations. His tactical officer was a Velkari, who had lost his entire family when the Harvesters took his homeworld. His engineer was human. A woman who had spent 15 years preparing for this exact battle. It has been an honor serving with you, Kim said simply. His crew nodded. No grand speeches, no false promises of survival. They all knew this was likely a one-way trip. The fleet jumped. They emerged into hell. The Harvester-controlled system was filled with enemy vessels. Thousands of them, arranged in defensive shells around the world ship, at the system's center. The world ship itself defied description. It was not built. It was grown. Organic and crystalline merged into something that looked like a massive insect hive rendered in geometric patterns. Kilometers long, bristling with weapons. The heart of the Harvester civilization. The battle began instantly. No warnings, no communications. The Harvesters knew why the fleet had come, and they responded with overwhelming force. Kim's destroyer dove into the chaos. The Relentless was small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Perfect for this kind of knife fight. His weapons officer picked targets and fired in smooth rhythm. Missiles streaked away. Energy beams lanced through space. Small Harvester vessels exploded. But for every one they destroyed, 3 more took its place. All ships, push forward, Chen commanded. Do not stop. Do not engage unless necessary. Our target is the world ship. The fleet drove deeper into the enemy formation. Capital ships led the way, their massive shields absorbing punishment that would vaporize smaller vessels. Behind them, destroyers and frigates protected the flanks. Council cruisers fought beside human carriers. Species that had barely trusted each other 3 months ago now depended on each other for survival. Zekthar commanded the Council battleship Unity from the fleet's center. His ship was old, a relic from before humanity's exile. But his crew was determined. They had embraced humans as brothers and sisters in arms. Now they fought to prove they were worthy of that brotherhood. A cluster of Harvester destroyers targeted Unity's port side. Shields flickered under sustained bombardment. Hull plates buckled. Atmosphere vented from damaged sections. Zekthar prepared to order evacuation when human fighters swept in from nowhere, engaging the Harvesters at close range. The enemy ships broke off to deal with the new threat. This is Unity. Thank you for the assist, Zekthar transmitted. No thanks needed, came the fighter squadron leader's reply. We are all in this together. The fleet penetrated the second defensive shell. Casualties were mounting. The tactical display showed red icons appearing with terrible frequency. Ships destroyed. Ships crippled. Entire squadrons wiped out in seconds. But the advance continued. They were close now. The world ship loomed ahead like a mountain in space. Then Unity took a catastrophic hit. A Harvester battleship had maneuvered around the defensive perimeter and fired its main weapon at point-blank range. The beam punched through Unity's shields and tore into the engineering section. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship. Engineering is gone, the damage control officer reported. We have lost main power. Jump drive is offline. We are dead. In space. Zekthar looked at the display. The fleet was moving past them, unable to stop. Unity was finished. Doomed to be destroyed, or captured within minutes. His crew looked at him, waiting for the order to abandon ship. No, Zekthar said. We do not abandon ship. Redirect all remaining power to weapons. If we cannot run, we fight. His crew responded instantly. Weapons that should have been offline flickered back to life. Auxiliary systems were cannibalized to feed the gun batteries. Unity began firing. No longer moving but still dangerous. All Council vessels in range, converge on Unity's position. A voice called over the tactical network. Captain Kim. Zekthar watched in amazement as a dozen human destroyers broke formation and raced back toward his crippled ship. They positioned themselves around Unity, creating a defensive screen with their own hulls, drawing harvester fire that would have finished the battleship. You should not be here, Zekthar transmitted. Your mission is the world ship. We are already lost. Not today, Kim replied. Nobody gets left behind. The destroyers held position while damage control teams from other ships transported across to Unity. Human and Council engineers working frantically to patch the worst damage. It took precious minutes. Minutes where the fleet pushed forward without them. Minutes where Kim's destroyers took hit after hit protecting the crippled battleship. The Relentless took a direct hit to its starboard side. Kim felt the deck shift beneath his feet. Alarms screamed. Half his bridge crew was dead or wounded, but the shields held long enough for Unity's jump drive to restart. Unity to all vessels. Jump drive is operational. Proceeding to rejoin fleet. The destroyers pulled back, and the group raced forward together. Behind them, the wreckage of Kim's courage floated in the void. The Relentless was barely holding together, but it was still moving, still fighting. The main fleet had reached the world ship. Admiral Chen's carrier group was launching bombers loaded with experimental weapons. Human scientists had designed the weapons specifically to target the world ship's organic components. If they worked, the entire structure would begin to collapse from within. But the world ship's defenses were extraordinary. Point defense fire filled the space around it like a wall of light. Bombers exploded by the dozens. Those that survived long enough to launch their weapons found their missiles intercepted. Chen made a decision. All carriers, emergency protocol. We go in ourselves. The massive carriers surged forward, using their bulk as shields for the smaller bombers. It was insane. Suicidal. And it worked. The bombers got through. Missiles struck the world ship's hull and detonated. The experimental weapons did their job. Organic tissue began to die. Crystalline structures cracked. The world ship screamed across all frequencies as pain signals overwhelmed its communication systems. Marine assault teams, you are cleared for boarding, Chen ordered. Thousands of soldiers launched from their ships in armored drop pods. Human and Council, together. They struck the world ship's damaged sections and cut their way inside. What followed was brutal close-quarters combat through alien corridors, fighting against harvester drones, pushing deeper toward the central core. Kim landed with the assault teams, even though his place was on his ship. The Relentless was too damaged to contribute more to the space battle, so he took up a rifle and joined the Marines. Zekthar did the same, abandoning Unity's bridge to his second-in-command. They met in a corridor inside the world ship. Both covered in the strange ichor that served as harvester blood. Should we even be here? Zekthar asked, breathing hard. We are commanders, not frontline soldiers. We started this mess together, Kim replied. We finish it together. The assault force reached the core chamber. It was massive. A space kilometers across filled with organic machinery, pulsing neural networks that stretched from floor to ceiling. And at the center, something that might have been a brain, the consciousness that controlled all harvesters. It spoke into their minds. Not words. Images. emotions. It showed them the heat death of its original galaxy, the desperation that drove harvesters to consume others for survival, and the ancient hunger that could never be satisfied. You think yourselves righteous, the present said. You are only lucky. Born in a galaxy still rich with life. You would do the same in our position. Admiral Chen stood at the chamber's entrance with the detonator in her hand. Maybe. But we will never know. Because we are stopping you here. She triggered the charges. Explosives positioned throughout the core chamber by the assault teams. The world ship's consciousness screamed one last time, then went silent as the blasts tore apart its neural networks. The world ship began to die. Its systems failed one by one. The remaining harvester vessels in the system went silent, their hive connection severed. The battle ended not with a final dramatic clash, but with sudden, total silence. All ships, emergency retreat, Chen ordered. The world ship is collapsing. We need to be clear before it explodes. The fleet jumped away in stages. Damaged ships first, then the carriers. Finally, the destroyers and frigates providing rear guard. Kim made it back to the Relentless and managed to get his battered ship into jump space seconds before the world ship detonated. The explosion was visible across 3 star systems. The Harvester world ship, larger than most moons, tore itself apart in a cascade of energy that left nothing but scattered debris. The war was over. But the cost had been terrible. 40% of the combined fleet was gone. Thousands dead. Tens of thousands wounded. Both civilizations had bet everything and barely won. Kim sat in his damaged captain's chair and looked at his surviving crew. They had done it. Against all odds. Against an enemy that should have destroyed them. They had won because humans and Council had finally learned to fight together. The Memorial Garden floated in orbit above Terra Nova, humanity's new capital world. It was not grand or elaborate. Just a simple space station with transparent walls looking out at the stars. Inside, holographic displays showed names. Thousands upon thousands of names. Human and Council together. All who had fallen in the war against the Harvesters. Zekthar stood before one particular display. Captain Morrison, the human carrier captain, who had sacrificed herself at Sanctuary. He had never met her. Never spoke with her. But he would remember her name for the rest of his life. She saved my people, he said quietly to Admiral Chen, who stood beside him. That carrier strike disrupted the Harvester formation long enough for our cruisers to regroup. Without her sacrifice, Sanctuary would have fallen. Chen nodded. She was one of thousands who gave everything. Human and Council alike. That is what I want people to remember. Not which species someone belonged to. Just that they stood together when it mattered most. The memorial ceremony had drawn representatives from across the galaxy. Council members who had once voted to expel humanity now stood shoulder to shoulder with the species they had wronged. Colonies that had been saved wore ribbons in both human and Council colors. Children of both civilizations played together in the garden's recreation areas. Already friends in a way their parents had to learn to be. Ambassador Park approached with a document tablet. The treaty is ready for signing. Full membership for humanity in the Galactic Council. Equal voice. Equal vote. The Council voted unanimously to approve it. Zekthar smiled slightly. 15 years ago, the vote to expel you was also unanimous. We excel at unity, it seems. We just needed to learn what to unite behind. The signing ceremony took place in the Council chamber, which had been partially rebuilt after Harvester raids had damaged the original structure. Chen and Park represented humanity. Zekthar and others represented the Council. Cameras broadcasted the event across hundreds of star systems. We gather today to acknowledge a truth that should have been obvious 15 years ago, Zekthar began. Humanity belongs among us. Not as servants. Not as provisional members. But as full equals. They have earned this place with their blood and sacrifice. They have saved us all. Movery, Movery, Movery. Chen accepted the treaty data tablet but did not immediately sign. Before I accept this honor, I want to be clear about something. Humanity did not fight the harvesters for gratitude. We did not sacrifice thousands of lives to earn a seat at this table. We fought because it was necessary. Because people needed help. Because peace must be defended, even for those who rejected us. She paused, looking around the chamber. 15 years ago, you drove us away. You called us violent, dangerous, unfit for civilized society. You were not entirely wrong. We are dangerous, but so are you. So is any civilization willing to do what is necessary to protect the innocent. Park stepped forward. The difference is not between violent and peaceful species. The difference is between those who use strength to dominate and those who use strength to defend. Humanity chose defense. You chose fear. And because of that choice, trillions died. The chamber was silent. The words were harsh. True. Uncomfortable. We accept this treaty, Chen continued. We return to the Galactic Council. But we return changed. And we expect the Council to change as well. No more choosing comfort over vigilance. No more dismissing warnings because they are inconvenient. No more allowing pride to blind us to threats. She signed the treaty. Park signed below her name. Then Zekthar added his signature. One by one, every council representative came forward to sign. The treaty was sealed. Afterward, Zekthar found himself alone in a small observation room with Ambassador Park. They looked out at the stars through the transparent wall. Human ships and council ships passed by outside, their crews already working together on post-war reconstruction. Do you hate us? Zekthar asked. For what we did to your people? Park considered the question for a long moment. Hate is exhausting. Anger is exhausting. We spent 15 years in isolation. We could have spent that time nursing our wounds and planning revenge. Instead, we spent it preparing to defend a galaxy that had rejected us. Does that sound like hate to you? It sounds like something better than we deserved. Maybe. But peace is not about what people deserve. It is about what they are willing to build together. Zekthar looked at the memorial garden visible through the window. At the names, scrolling endlessly. Human and Council. United in death as they should have been united in life. We gave you suspicion and fear, he said softly. You gave us 15 years to prepare. We wasted them. Yes, Park agreed bluntly. But you came anyway. When we called for help, you could have let us burn for our mistakes. Why did humanity answer? Park smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. Because someone has to. Because if we only help those who deserve it, we become the same as those we fight against. Because peace requires sacrifice, and someone must be willing to make it. She turned to face him directly. Humanity did not return to punish you, Zekthar. We returned to save you. Not because you earned it. Not because we forgave you. But because it was right. And because we are better than our anger. Zekthar felt something loosen in his chest. Relief mixed with shame and gratitude. I cannot change what the Council did. I cannot bring back those 15 years. But I swear to you, humanity will never face rejection from us again. Your place among us is permanent. Sacred. Good, Park replied. Because the harvesters were not the only threat in this galaxy. They were just the first we faced together. There will be others. And next time, we face them united from the start. Over the following months, human technology began to integrate with Council systems. Human tactics were taught at military academies. Joint training exercises became routine. Slowly, the scars began to heal. But humanity did not forget. The border systems where they had been driven remained primarily human settlements. A reminder. A warning. Human warships patrolled Council space now, welcomed instead of feared. And on every ship, in every station, the same message was displayed. We gave you peace. You brought war. We saved you anyway. Never forget what that cost. Zekthar visited the memorial garden often. He had taken it upon himself to learn the names. All of them. Every single soldier who had died defending a galaxy that had once rejected them. It would take him years, perhaps decades, but he had the time. On one visit, he found Admiral Chen there. She was older now, considering retirement. The war had aged her, more than the years had. Do you regret it? Zekthar asked. Coming back to help us? Chen looked at the names scrolling past. At Morrison. At Kim, who had died 3 months after the war from injuries that never fully healed. At thousands of others. Every day, she admitted. Every time I see these names, I wonder if we should have stayed away. Let you face the consequences of your choices. But then I remember the children on Sanctuary. The families on the Outer Rim colonies. The billions who never voted to expel us. Who never wanted war. They deserve to live. So yes, I regret the cost. But I do not regret the choice. She turned to leave, then paused. Humanity gave you 15 years of peace, Zekthar. You returned with death and destruction, just as we warned. But we returned with salvation. Remember that. Remember what happened when the galaxy abandoned those who would protect it. Make sure it never happens again. Zekthar watched her go. Then he turned back to the memorial. To the names. To the price that had been paid. I will remember, he promised the dead. Outside the garden, the galaxy turned. Human and council ships patrolled together. Colonies rebuilt. Trade resumed. Children grew up knowing both species as friends and allies. The scars remained, but they were healing. And in the darkness beyond the galactic rim, humanity kept watch. Their sensors sweeping the void. Their ships ready. Never again would the galaxy face a threat unprepared. Never again would humanity's warnings be dismissed. The peace had been bought with blood. Both civilizations would honor that cost by defending it together. Forever. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.